Hi, I'm Rochelle. Welcome to Eat, Move, Be Healthy. And this series, our series on sleep. The series is all about all things sleep, which are very poignant at the moment with the pandemic, with people being worried about finances, anxious about their health, bored and frustrated. I know I am with lockdown. So plenty reasons for you not to be getting a good night's sleep. So in today's episode, I'm joined by a good friend to the program and to myself, Dr. Marcelle Crinean. Hey, you, welcome back. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.
Today.
Thank you for having me.
And Marcelle's going to help us try to understand what's going on when we're not with this poor quality sleep, why we're not sleeping, and we'll also get into a few maybe tips and tricks on how to help us there. So Marcelle is Dr. Marty with her PhD and plenty of other qualifications, is a therapist and certainly sleep coach who will, if I tell you the name of her business, you'll understand exactly her approach and how she works, and that is Brain Reframe. So Marcelle will help you transform the way you think about, look at, perceive any issues or problems in your life. And I've seen with people I've sent to her will have you improve the way you look and think about these things, and of course send you on your way with strategies and as ways to manage that going forward. So I know I like the way you work, because it's positive, but more importantly, because you work with the client from where they are now. There's no dwelling on the, well, your father never hugged you as a child, or, none of that. And I think the word you've used before is solution focused. So tell us a bit more about the way you work as a therapist.
Yeah, so as you kind of said at the beginning, I have various qualifications. I'm trained in various types of therapy, but they are all solution-focused therapies, in that rather than dwelling on the problem, so the thing that happened that tipped you into the state that you're in, which, could be stressed, could be anxious, could be depressed, could be lack of sleep, could be lack of confidence, whatever it might be. Something's generally happened that's got you to where you've got to at that moment in time. And my goal for all my clients is to say, look, you are where you are. We can't change the past. So let's instead look at ways of moving you towards a future that you actually want, so that you don't take this stuff with you into the future. Right. So it's really about, rather than looking at the problems, we look at the solutions, and we don't dwell on the past. What we do instead is we look at the present and the future. So where are you now? Where do you want to be? What do you want your future to look like? What do you want to achieve? What are you aiming for? Rather than what don't you want?
Where do you want to be? That's actually a far easier question, is to say, what you don't want, isn't it?
I was going to say, so
stuck in that, can't they?
Absolutely, because normally I'm like 9.9 times out of 10, people know what they don't want, but they don't know what they do want. So part of what I do in my work is help people decide what that is. Because if we start with people who are not sleeping, they can't think, they're grumpy, they're snappy, they're gorging sugar, they've developed all these bad habits, they just feel awful, they've got no energy, they just want to sleep. That's it, right? I just want sleep. And that's fine, and we can work with that, and we can give them strategies that help them sleep. But actually, it's more about, okay, well, if you got a good night's sleep, what would that mean to you? If you got a good night's sleep, what would you be able to do that you can't do today? Okay. So it's really about getting people to think slightly differently about the problem. Yeah. We can move them, because for some people it might be, I really want to get a good night's sleep because I just can't focus in the day and I have so much work to do, I can't get through it all. Sure. For other people, it could just be, I feel like I've got no energy. Yeah. Well, if you had energy, what would you be doing?
Because that's the two examples you gave. They're exactly that. So here we're taking sleeplessness, and it would be easy to make it just some sort of medical condition and say, oh, well, it's because you're not getting enough of vitamin A or B, and and that's all you have to. But it's so personal somebody can be tired because they need peace and quiet, or somebody can be tired because they're physically exhausted and are running around like a lunatic. So it's quite a personal thing.
And it means something different to everybody, and solving it means something different to everybody. Right. So I don't treat it as, so that's, and I know we're going to kind of talk about this, but I created a sleep program. There are lots of, I'm going to call them remedies for sleep and tips for sleep. And, you know, the one type of therapy that's generally prescribed by GPs and health practitioners is cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. And that's great because that's a process that you follow. And it's very much based on the chemistry of the brain and what the chemistry of the brain is doing and how you reframe your thoughts. And that's all great, but it doesn't work for everybody. Especially if you're doing it online, which is what most things are these days. They're all online things. You don't get to talk to a human being. And actually, it's not a one size fits all, because not everybody is looking for the same benefits.
Oh, right. Yeah.
One's got the same problem, they can't sleep, but the cause of that problem is different. And what it means to them to solve the problem is different.
Right.
So you kind of have to work with the person. Yes, there's strategies you can use, and you can download things online that, you know, here's 7 tips to help you sleep better. And that's great. But if they're not your problem, or actually having more energy isn't what you want, it doesn't resonate with you. You have to.
And that, I mean, that's no different in my line of work. You know, you can give you, well, here's a HIIT workout and here's a way to run 5K. But what if I don't want to run 5K? I don't necessarily want to run. What if
it doesn't fit into my lifestyle? I have so many entrepreneurs that I work with who believe that, you know, well, successful entrepreneurs all get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and they do meditation and they, you know, they do half an hour of self-help or whatever, and that's what a good entrepreneur does. And it's just a load of nonsense, right? Because if that doesn't, well, it's not a load of nonsense, but if it doesn't work for you,
and it doesn't mean that it's
find a thing that does work for you.
And it doesn't mean that you're wrong, it means that doesn't work for you.
Correct. Okay, so yeah, for me it's very much about helping somebody actually understand what it is they're looking for, understand what's important to them, and understand what would actually make a difference to their life. And then that's what we work with. Obviously, we solve the problem along the way, sure. but my goal isn't just to help them sleep. My goal is to help them sleep and get what they want.
Yeah. So on that note about it being not this sort of one size fit all, one of my questions to you is going to be, is there an ideal amount of sleep? And I guess medically the answer would be X, but again, personally, the answer is Y.
Different.
Some people
it is.
Thrive on little and
and it's actually not a very easy answer to give. So the World Health Organization, WHO, have essentially stated that for healthy functioning, on average, the average adult needs between 7 and 9 hours sleep a night.
Okay.
But I'm going to caveat that. First of all, that changes with age.
Sure.
But I'm more focused on the quality of the sleep you get and not the quantity, because to my mind and to my experience, if you are getting 7 hours of rubbish sleep,
tossing, turning,
it's completely not doing what it needs to do. Whereas if you got 6 hours of quality sleep, that's probably better for you. Now, there are minimums. Like, I would never suggest that somebody really sleeps less than 6 hours a day. But there are some people who function pretty well on 6 hours a day. And there are some people called short sleepers. There's not many people who are short sleepers, but you can get short sleepers who are just people who need less sleep. And there are some people who need 10, because that 7 to 9 is average. But it will differ slightly person to person, and it will differ on your age, and it will differ on the quality of the sleep that you're getting.
When I've known anybody, anecdotally, who's really good about going on only like 6 hours or only a few hours sleep, and I always wake up this morning and I can cope. Those type of people have quite a tight and rigid structure and routine. So it's
Yes.
almost, you can do that, but nothing outside of your structure routine can change, or you can't suddenly have a spontaneous late night. Those kind of people are, no matter come hell or high water, they're in bed at that time, they wake up at that time, and that's how they function.
Regular sleep schedules is one of the key elements, the key foundations of good quality sleep.
So that's what I was going to ask you next. So that we got routine. So routine is essential.
Absolutely essential. And it's essential for our sleep-wake cycle. So we have a body clock, a 24-hour body clock, where all kinds of processes happen on different, it's called a circadian rhythm. So different circadian rhythms, right? We have all of these different circadian rhythms flipping about our body throughout the day. So our blood pressure will fluctuate throughout the day. Our weight fluctuates throughout the day. Our heart rate fluctuates throughout the day. Our hormone levels fluctuate throughout. So our sleep-wake cycle also fluctuates because it's based on hormones, right? And ideally speaking, our sleep-wake cycle works best when it's in line with the 24-hour earth clock. So ideally, if we are waking up when it's getting light and we're going to sleep when it's getting dark, that's going to be the best sleep-wake cycle for us. Most of us don't operate on that way. We get up in the morning when our alarm clock wakes us, not when the sun wakes us, if we're lucky enough to have sun. And we tend to go to sleep much later than when it gets dark. So it doesn't quite correspond, but we find that people who have the best quality sleep, it's kind of in sync with that kind of thing, which is why getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning can be a really good thing in the summer. And, working through the night and going to bed when it's light, you may not get the best amount of sleep. That's because melatonin, our sleep hormone, we produce more of that sleep hormone if we are getting a lot of serotonin, which is our happy chemical. The more serotonin we create, the more melatonin we will create. And that can also be related to the amount of daylight we get and the amount of vitamin D we get. So if we are exposed, for example, to daylight and sunshine, that gives us vitamin D and natural light at midday, we are more likely to get a better night's sleep because we're creating more melatonin. If we don't get daylight in the day and we're not subject to natural light, that can affect our melatonin production. The other thing that happens is that cortisol, which is our stress chemical, is also our awake chemical. And that works on a differential to melatonin, our sleep hormone. So they kind of work on different cycles. Ideally, at midday, cortisol, our awake hormone, is at its highest when the sun is at its highest. Okay, we're most awake, we're most alert, we're most focused. And melatonin, which is our sleep hormone, should be at its lowest. So we have this big differential between the two. And then as one begins to incline, the other one begins to decline. So they kind of cross over at midnight, where melatonin is at its highest and cortisol is at its lowest. But of course, we're already doing lots of things in the day that stress us. Stress is cortisol, which is more awake chemical. So already they begin to fluctuate.
And when you think about it, I mean, it's a wonderful system, as is so much about the human body. And if you think about primitive man who would have fallen in line with this. So, you look in the UK, for instance, it's getting light during winter, it gets very light early, starts getting dark very early on and only gets light much later on. But primitive man could have functioned like that. He was in winter, he was going to be less productive. He was going to near enough not hibernate, but just kind of slow down and wait it out. And then the longer hours is going to be more productive. And so from an evolutionary phase, you kind of think, well, we haven't completely evolved, but what we have done is we've now set alarms. So we wake up in the dark, certainly here in the UK, wake up, get up in the dark, starting before natural sunlight. And then carrying on and working till when it's dark. And then if you're in the unfortunate position, of course, where you're in an office or never get outside any natural light, you're in, bright light from the morning, the minute you wake up, sit the whole day, and it's
which is going to affect your sleep.
Yeah.
So going back to your question, actually, because this is what happens when you and I chat, right? But complete tangents. But yes, regular schedule, super, super important, for our sleep-wake cycle. And the way I like to explain it to clients is, think about what happens if you go on holiday or you cross a time zone and you have jet lag, right? So you fly across a time zone where there's only 1 hour or 2 hour difference. That disrupts your sleep massively. You can't sleep when you get there, then you're tired in the morning, and it can take a few days to adjust. Well, if you are regularly changing your getting up time and your going to bed time by 1 or 2 hours, you're actually causing jet lag in your body every single day and disrupting your sleep. So regular sleep schedules, super, super important. That's in fact always my number one.
The irony is, you do it with kids. You insist on it with kids. Come on, it's bedtime. Come on, you know what you like if you don't go to sleep. We see it. The evidence is there. Yeah.
But then and in fact, we are all born with the biological ability to sleep.
Yeah.
But we don't know when we're born when to sleep or how long to sleep. We're trained, okay? We're trained by our parents. But of course, the older we get, we don't realise the importance of that training, and then we mess with it.
Yeah.
Okay, we stay up later than we should. We go to bed later.
Distractions, isn't there? There's partying.
And for some people, and we now know actually it's 2 in every 3 since the pandemic hit. So just before the pandemic started, like a year ago now, it was about 27% of the adult population had trouble sleeping. And by trouble sleeping, I mean either trouble getting to sleep or trouble staying asleep or waking up earlier than they would like to and then not being able to get back to sleep and being tired throughout the day. So all of those are kind of classified as being insomnia. And it was about 1 in 4, but now it's 2 in 3.
Wow.
So in every 3 people are now struggling with some kind of sleep problem. And that's because partly since the COVID pandemic, yes, we've got all the stress and the anxiety, but we don't have regular schedules anymore.
No.
It's very irregular schedules for people. Like, we don't really have a time to get up for work. And
we're still working from home means you kind of go, okay, well, I'll do, well, I'm here anyway, I'll come and do it later. Whereas perhaps when some people were bringing work home anyway, but there was an element of, no, I'm home now, I'll wait until I get back into the office. Now, well, the office is down the hall,
And that's actually, I think, also the whole work from home culture. And I'm guilty of that. So I've been one of them for years.
Yeah.
We our schedules are flexible. When our schedules are flexible, we're not necessarily quite as tired at night. We want to watch a movie, or we don't go to bed on time because we don't have to get up on time. There is no time, right? It's flexible. We have flexibility, we have freedom,
and yet when you do that, because I'm a big one of, I don't have to get up too early tomorrow morning, I'm going to have a lie-in. And the funny thing is, though, when you do there's actually, well, I've found it's quite nice getting up early when you don't have to. You suddenly find the extra 2 hours in the day, you take your time, and actually, so it's a false economy, really. You just have
it's all about how you think about it, right?
There we go.
Think that you don't have to. That doesn't create stress in the brain. So now you can get up in a relaxed way. But if you think you have to get up, have to is processed by the brain as a stressor. So now we're already stressed and feeling miserable and grumpy. And we're not looking forward to the day. So it's for me, stress and sleep are massively linked, massively.
And then, of course, talking about the circadian rhythms, of course, shift workers. I mean, that's
shift work is hard. It's really, really hard because they're essentially putting their body through a jet lag all the time, right? So for shift workers, it's really about be as regular as you can. So, is it that you can go to bed at 9 p.m. and get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every day, or you know, but just be as regular as you can. Find a schedule that fits, that's regular.
And then just from a physiological, because you can, hormones can be influenced by diet and environment. You'd have to, with shift working, you have to be, if you're going to do it, you've got to get through it and still be healthy. You've got to watch how you eat, what you eat, really feed it so that you don't come off with the weight gain, the health issues. You know, it's just a spiraling thing. So
it really has, and that's why it's so important to focus on getting the right quality. So doing all the things that get you quality sleep rather than worrying about getting 9 hours sleep.
Now you're doing this, obviously, you see people one-to-one. I know you do workshops too. You do a lot of corporate stuff as well with productivity and things like that. But now you're going to be launching this 4-week online course where they will also get you, which is great. As part of that, as a bit of promotion towards that, you were releasing, and you can still get it, I know, on your website, brainreframe.com, under free stuff. You can download the ebook on sleep stealers. And I thought that was a great word.
Sneaky sleep stealers. Yeah, because they're things that you don't know you're doing that are actually stopping you from sleeping well.
Right.
So yeah, there's 7 things in there, and actually regular bedtimes is one of the things in that book, and it will explain in detail why, because I wanted, it's just a little free.
Sure.
But I want.
No, I like it because it gives you an idea of, because it is sometimes just as simple as changing 1 or 2 things. Yeah. Sometimes
it is, and that's it. I think for a lot of people don't need one-to-one therapy. Sure. What they need is the step-by-step process that works, and they need the one-to-one support from somebody who knows what they're doing, who can guide them to how it can work for them, because it has to be taken in that reference that we were talking about earlier, which is what's your needs, what's your lifestyle, what tipped you into insomnia, and what's important for you. So I think you need the context to be able to take those strategies and make them work for you. That's really important to me, is that it has to work for you.
Yeah.
So that's why, whilst it's an online course, it's actually an online live coaching course, because anyone can download, they can read a book, they can download the content from the internet, brilliant, go do. Because though it might say, have regular sleep patterns, and then a shift worker will say, well, I don't have regular, how do I do that? Exactly. Or somebody else says, but my partner snores and they keep me awake, how do I deal with that?
What you say, or and also, how do you adapt those strategies around, so a mother who's going to be woken up every 2 hours with a newborn baby, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I ain't going to stop. Yes, it will eventually, but right now, how do I manage that I get a good night's sleep with?
And actually, sometimes it's not, in that situation, you're not going to, right? All you can do is do the best you can and manage the anxiety that you have around not getting a good night's sleep.
Right.
Because it's subtly different, but it's still really important to know, which is, if you are being woken up every 2 hours, that's not going to be good quality sleep. At some level, you are going to be sleep deficient.
With my son, he wasn't a good sleeper at all. What always, looking back, what amazes me, and when you speak to women now who are in that situation, what always amazes me is that when the person's in that situation, they don't prioritize. They know it's not going to last forever, so then they still push on trying to do everything instead of going, okay, this isn't going to last forever. I've got to work with it. I do need sleep. So, right, I'm sorry, I can't take calls between that time. I can't do that. I'm going to sleep.
Exactly.
Being a little bit more disciplined and firmer about their needs, rather than going, oh, well, I haven't slept, so I'll just fumble on through,
And that's why the solution focused approach is really important, because it's okay, well, what can you do?
Yeah.
Okay, what little things can you do? Is there anything you can do to improve it even slightly? Because that's what we're looking for, right? We're looking for improvement. We're looking for ideal, which is your baby sleeps all throughout the night, you never get woken up, but that's proper magic wand, and unfortunately,
Okay, so now I've got to ask you, because you've had some fun on your Instagram or Facebook pages under the same name, Brain Reframe. So you've had some fun posts promoting the sleep coaching and certainly the course. There was the one about the counting sheep.
Oh, yes.
That is, everybody seems to know that as a thing to do, but everybody also knows that it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. It's a complete myth.
Do we know where it came from? Do we even know that you count sheep, that you get bored and fall asleep? I don't know.
There's some truth to that, right? In that so the way our brain pings wide awake is because we're worried about something, right? Either we're out of our sleep-wake schedule, or our brain has pinged a thought into our head that has created a wake hormone, right? Stress hormone. So it could be related to stress, or just something that's pinged me awake that I've thought of in the night, or that's keeping me awake because my brain's full of stuff. And some of that might be exciting stuff, but I'm engaged with it, right? So when my brain is bored, it means there's no threat, there's nothing troublesome going on, so I can just relax and sleep, okay? But as you said right at the very beginning of this, when you're really, really bored, that can be just as stressful as being too
worried about your health or your...
Yeah. So the problem with counting sheep is it's really dull, but it's just not engaging enough.
No.
Unless you've got a really active imagination and you can imagine the sheep doing somersaults, and you give them names and character, you somehow jazz up the whole counting sheep thing. That could be something that you could do, but whatever you do, you need to kind of engage if your mind has pinged you awake with something, it believes that there's a threat chasing you. You've just had a shot of adrenaline that comes because the brain...
Yeah, we need to act on this. We've got to do...
I need to do something. Exactly. I've got to do something, and I've got to do it now. So what we want to do is engage the brain in another activity that is not stress inducing.
Okay.
But not so dull that I can still engage part of my adrenaline thing, right? Okay. So there are things you can do. So for example, for me, when that happens, and it happens to all of us, right? It's normal to have the odd night's sleep where it's not so great, especially if you've got a deadline coming up or something important to prepare for the next day or something like that. So if that happens to me and I can't sleep, then I start to play a game in my head. I don't know what the name of it is. I just call it the girl's name game, where you think of the name of a girl or a boy or a city. It doesn't really matter. So I might think of the name Anne, right? And I've spelled it ANN in my head. So the next girl's name has to begin with the last letter of Anne, which is N. So now my next girl's name is Natalie, and Natalie ends in an E. So the next girl's name has to begin with an E. So Erica, and now Erica ends in an E. And so I go round, right? I mean, what's interesting at some point is, weirdly, there's a lot of girls' names that end in an A, and I run out of names really fast, or Y, which is even worse. But we have this rule then in our head which says you mustn't repeat the same girl's names twice. And the whole point of this is not to, do that, just to keep saying the names. And because what you're doing is you're thinking, but you're not thinking about anything important. So your brain can relax. But it's engaging enough so that you don't get distracted by the thing that woke you up. For one of the things, what you really want to do is, if you're lying in bed awake, then what you want to do is actually get out of bed. After about 20 minutes, you want to get out of bed, because your brain learns through association, right? So when you wake up in the morning, your brain learns it's time to clean your teeth and have a shower and put your work clothes on. Or, when it's 1 o'clock, your brain goes, oh, it must be lunchtime, or whatever it might be, right? So your brain learns through association. And if what you're doing is lying in bed being awake, then your brain begins to associate your bed with being awake. And that's absolutely what you don't want. You want your brain to understand that when you're lying in bed, that's sleep.
Absolutely. So the 4-week program is launching this week, I think.
15th of it's available now. You can buy places now. It's starting on the 15th of February, so in 2 weeks.
And what does that entail? So it's a 4 weeks, and what is the commitment?
It's 4 weeks. It's 1 hour per week. So it's on a Monday. I've set it for Monday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon UK time. That's because a lot of my clients are US, and I need a time that fits everybody. So it's 1 o'clock till 2 o'clock once a week on a Monday for 4 consecutive Mondays. I will send kind of downloads and things that people need the night before. And then there'll be some training on that, some live training, and then a Q&A. So time to ask questions, figure out how we make it work for you that week. And there's a Facebook group where I'll be in there every single day answering questions. A question sheet where you can ask your questions in advance and I'll answer them. And then those Monday sessions are recorded and the recordings are put into the Facebook group. So if you weren't able to make the live call, you can at least ask your question, get it answered in the live call, and then watch the recording back.
So you've covered every angle.
I've tried to cover it because I think the live coaching is really important. I think it's really important that you know how to adapt it, but all of the content will also be available for download. Yeah. And this is a closed group actually. So anyone who starts with you on the 15th, no one else joins after that.
Okay, that's good.
It's just the same people for those 4 weeks. So you begin to form a bond and everybody starts at the same time. Everybody's at the same point in the program. And it is a step-by-step process. So each week you'll be given the step for that week. Okay. So it's not like you're given everything in one go. The steps are small enough and manageable enough that everybody can implement at least some of that step, if not all of that step that week. A lot of the feedback I get, so I belong to a Facebook group all about cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, and the biggest complaint by people in that group is that they followed an online program and they don't know how to make something work for them, or they have no support and they don't know how to make it work for them. And then of course the end result is they think it doesn't work.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, it's a little bit like saying the diet doesn't work.
It's too big. My problem is just too big. It's
exactly. And actually it's generally not that. It's just that nobody's shown them how to make the bits work for them.
Now, yes. I know what will work for sure is certainly working with you. So I have a look at the course, Brain Reframe. They can go to your website, brainreframe.com.
They can, yes. So if they want the course, it's there on the bottom of the homepage. Also, actually, I've got a Facebook group, a free Facebook group that offers tips and strategies. So if you go to Facebook, I think it's /groups, yes. And it's Say Goodnight to Insomnia.
Oh, that's Say Goodnight.
Say Goodnight to Insomnia is actually the same name as the course. But you can also find the link to the group from the Brain Reframe Facebook page.
Oh, okay. So Brain Reframe is on all your social medias. That's what you're correct. Thanks so much. And I'm no doubt we'll have you on the show again. Thanks so much.
Thank you.